What's the deal with these sealed for life transmissions? Whether you've got an automatic or a manual, it will have oil in the transmission. And some manufacturers are moving towards a sealed for life setup. What does that actually mean? And do we actually need to change the fluid in our transmission more often than the manufacturers state, i.e. never? You can understand why manufacturers push this sealed for life setup, because it lowers the overall cost of maintaining the car. The service costs are lower. They choose a formulation of oil that lasts a long time. They put it in a sealed transmission, so there's very little scope for the oil to evaporate or disappear or leak. Now, when a manufacturer says sealed for life, they don't actually mean the entire life of the car. In some cases, they may just mean the life of the warranty. They don't expect their cars to last longer than the warranty period. Most manufacturers have a more reasonable approach, and they would expect the car and the transmission to go untroubled for about 100,000 miles. Let me know in the comments if you feel that that is reasonable or generous, or it's particularly pessimistic. I know a lot of you have got cars with massive mileages, and you'd probably be offended by that claim that manufacturers are just aiming at 100,000 miles. It obviously, to a certain extent, saves manufacturers a bit of money. They don't have to put a dipstick, and because it's sealed for life, it's actually quite difficult in some cases to drain the oil and refill it. And whenever you drain oil and refill it, there's always a scope for getting the levels wrong or using the wrong formulation of oil. Manufacturers have removed that element of error or problem by doing it themselves, putting the best they can in at the start. But what happens to the transmission oil? Does it degrade? Well, oil degrades to a certain extent because it collects metal particles. As two metal surfaces rub together, they will shed some metal particles, and that becomes trapped in the transmission fluid. The transmission fluid also gets hot and cools down, and heat is also a thing that can degrade not just the transmission fluid but also the additives and the formulations that go into the transmission fluid. And this really highlights the problem. Some cars generate a lot of heat. I'm thinking particularly of dual clutch transmissions. You've got fairly specialist gearboxes out there. You've got the CVT, the continuously variable transmission gearboxes, and you've got the traditional torque converter gearboxes. And in the main, if you drain the oil after 80,000 miles in one of the less heat prone gearboxes, the transmission fluid will be just as good as it was when it was put in the car. And for that reason, I wouldn't recommend you go to the expense and the hassle of draining these cars. Now, thinking about the Volkswagen group, because I know a lot of our viewers have got Audis or Volkswagens or Seats and Skodas, the gearboxes that we used did vary. In the lower powered models, you tended to have significantly less wear and tear on the transmission fluid. And in the higher performance models, you do see degradation of the transmission fluid after 50 to 70, 80,000 miles. It's actually quite hard to change the transmission fluid. The manufacturers have not made it easy in these sealed for life systems, and most garages will just refuse to do it. They'll just say it's sealed for life. Should you do it? Well, how long are you planning to keep your car? Are you just planning to keep your car for 3 to 5 years and then you'll sell it and move on? If that's the case, it's probably not worth the hassle and the expense of just changing the transmission fluid. But if you want to keep your car indefinitely and make it a project that keeps on going, you probably would want to change the transmission fluid. And I can't come up with a hard and fast rule as to what mileage, because it depends on the condition of the transmission fluid. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are and what you found if you've drained your transmission fluid and you've seen that it's degraded or it's become discoloured. If you drive a high performance car, you should really pay more attention to maintenance, and the transmission fluid is certainly one of those items. A high performance engine is putting out more power, it's doing more work, there's generally more heat involved in every component of the car. But you have to weigh up the pros and cons. Is it worth the expense and the hassle? And if you didn't do that, and say the gearbox or transmission only lasted 100,000 miles, can you replace it cheaply? And you've got to weigh up the pros and cons, the expense, hassle and inconvenience of changing the transmission fluid in a car that's not been designed to have it changed, as opposed to the extended lifespan and duration of enjoyment you'll get from the car if you do change it. I hope this video has been useful. Please boot the like button. That really does help us to get out there. The algorithm loves your likes, so do I. Thank you very much for those. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. That also helps us to get out there. And I've lined this video and this playlist up for you that you should should find really interesting. Thanks for watching. See you in these next videos.